Hi, readers. Welcome to our first reading lesson. So, here's what you're going to need for today. You are going to need your blue reading mastery book, and you'll need this reading packet with the geese on it. So, even though you took home a lot of other things, the whale book, the one and only Ivan, you're probably as excited for us to read that as I am. But we're going to start actually with the blue reading mastery book, and we're going to do just a few stories out of that, and then we're going to put it aside and read the whale book, and then also read the one and only Ivan. So we're focusing first on reading mastery. All right. So make sure you have those two things with you, and then we're ready for today's lesson. All right. So you have your reading book, right? I have it sitting in front of you. We're going to do the very first lesson today. So open your book to lesson 1. Right, which looks like this. You'll remember from your work in the Reading Mastery book in 2nd grade that we're going to start out with the vocabulary words. So even though you're at home, I want you to really work carefully on pointing at the words and reading them with me. So I don't have my clicker here, but you're going to see me pointing at each word, and I'm going to say the word, and I'm going to ask you to repeat the word. I'm going to wait a moment, and I'm going to expect that you're saying the word aloud after me, right? So that we're really practicing our vocabulary so we can build ourselves to be really strong, great readers. Right? So here we go. We're all pointing at column 1. It's blue. That first word is female. What word? Good. Our next word, word 2, is select. What word? When you select something, you choose it. So everybody, what's another way of saying she chose the small salad? Did you say she selected the small salad? Good. Word 3, migration. What word? Excellent. So a migration is a long journey that animals make every year. Animals migrate to the same place year after year. You might know of some other animals that migrate. Word 4, Florida. Florida is one of the states of the United States. Take a moment and read through those words again with me. Ready? Female, select, migration, Florida. Let's go to column 2. All the words in column 2 have endings, so be sure you're catching all those endings. Word 1 is months. What word? Good. Do you know how many months are in the year? I hope you said 12. Word 2 is yearly. What word? Great. Word 3, ponds. What word? Word 4, lonely. What word? Marvelous. And word 5 is markings. What word? Great. Let's do column 2. Ready? We're going to go through it the quick way. Here we go. Months, yearly, ponds, lonely, markings. You got it. Ready for column 3? Ooh, column 3 starts out with a name. What name? Henry. Great. Henry is a character you will soon be meeting. Word 2 is chest. What word? Great. Put your hand on your chest for a moment. Word 3, goose. What word? Well done. And word 4 is the plural of goose. geese. What word? So if you have more than one goose, you have geese. Those are both nouns. Word 5 is flapping. Maybe you're right now thinking about what it'd be like to be flapping your arms. What word? Good. Column 3 the quick way. I'm back at the top. Here we go. Henry, chest, goose, geese, flapping. Column 4, our last column. Column 4, the first word is male. What word? Good. Our second word is migrate. What word? Good. Did everyone catch the connection there? Migrate and migration. Right? So animals that migrate are going through a migration. Remember, a migration is a long journey that animals make every year. So when they migrate, right, that's a verb. That's their process of going on their long journey. Word 3, shorter. What word? Perfect. And word 4 is hatch. What word? Well done. Let's do column 4 the quick way. I'm back at the top. Column 1, pointing with me. Male, migrate, shorter, hatch. You did it. So scholars, now find part B of your book. And before we do part B, if you felt like you had any trouble up here with any of the vocabulary words, it's okay to pause for a moment and practice them again if you need to. If there's any words that gave you trouble, that would be a good thing to do right now. And then you can resume and hear the next part with me. So we're going to today read a story about a goose named Henry. But first we have this little information passage that gives us some facts about geese. So everybody follow along. I'm going to read through it. Then I'm going to ask you to stop and read through it. Here we go. Following along with your finger, please. You're going to read a story about geese. Both geese and ducks are water birds, but geese are a lot bigger than ducks. There are many different kinds of geese. Snow geese are white. The geese in the story you'll read are Canada geese. They are gray, black, and white. So scholars, let's check in on a couple of things here. Did you take a moment to touch the ducks? And then, can you find the snow geese? Oh, I'm not touching the ducks. Oh my goodness. I should watch where I'm pointing my fingers as I'm talking. So here are the ducks. And then here are the snow geese. Did you catch that mistake? I bet you caught my mistake. Good job. Did you notice that the snow geese are white? And then the Canada geese are the ones right over here. We often see those flying in Minnesota at this time of year. Right? And if you go back to the ducks for a minute, can you tell the difference there between the male and the female duck? Right? Good work. So the picture shows a person standing near ducks, snow geese, and Canada geese. Male geese and female geese have the same color and markings, but male geese are bigger than female geese. Baby geese hatch from eggs that are a lot bigger than chicken eggs. The babies are born in June. They are yellow, but as they grow older, they change color. Geese are not full grown by the time they are a year old. Scholars, I'm going to stop right there for a moment. Let's see if you can answer a couple of my questions. Just think about this for a moment. In which month did we just hear geese are born? Did you remember it was June? And what color are they when they're born? I hope you said yellow. Are they full grown at the end of 1 year? The answer to that is no, they are not. When geese are 3 years old, they mate for the first time. Each female goose selects a mate, and the two geese stay together until one of them dies. As you will find out in the story, it may be a long time before one of them dies. So, scholars, how old did we just hear they are when they mate for the first time? I hope you said 3. And after a male and female goose mate, how long do they stay together? Until one of them dies. You're absolutely right. So now, scholars, find part C. This is our story where you're going to meet old Henry today. So before you read that part, I want you to pause for a moment and reread that information passage out loud. Okay, so now we're ready for part C. Scholars, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read part C out loud to you today. I might stop and ask a couple questions along the way, and then I'll tell you what else we're going to do. All right? So, following along with your finger, please. The other geese called him Old Henry. His name tells you one thing about him. He was old. Most geese live about 30 years. That's a long time for a bird. But Old Henry was 35 years old. So, scholars, can you think why he has the name Old Henry? Did you say because he's old? And what kind of animal is Old Henry? Right, he's a goose. And most geese get to be about 30 years old. But how old did we hear that Henry is? 35 is the right answer. All right, I'm going to continue, scholars. I'm right here at this spot. You couldn't tell he was that old by looking at him. He was sort of a gray color with a white chest, just like the other Canada geese. If you saw Old Henry swimming on Big Trout Lake with the other geese on a warm summer day, you would not be able to tell that he was the oldest goose in the flock. Scholars, I'm going to stop there again for a moment. What's the name of the lake where Old Henry was that summer? Big Trout Lake is the right answer. Could you tell that Old Henry was the oldest goose in the flock? The answer to that question is no, you can't tell. He looks just like the other geese. Let's continue. If you saw Old Henry 3 months later that year, you might get the idea that he was an old goose. He was the only goose that was still on Big Trout Lake. All the other geese in the flock had gone south for the winter. They wanted Old Henry to go with them. But he told them no. I'm getting too old to fly 2,000 miles. I've done it too many times, and I'm just too tired. The other geese told him, but if you stay here, you may never make it through the winter. The lakes will freeze, and you'll die. Henry replied, maybe I won't die. But he didn't really believe that at all. So he waved goodbye to the other geese as they took off from the lake, and he watched them form a great V that moved slowly south. Scholars, I'm going to ask you a few questions about the end part of our story. Listen carefully and see if you can answer all of these. How far were the geese going to fly on their trip south? 2,000 miles is right. Is it still summer when they leave Big Trout Lake? No. What season is it, scholars? Fall, just like it is right now. Good. What did we hear were two reasons that old Henry didn't fly with the flock? One of them is that he's feeling too old. And the second one, he's too tired. So the rest of the flock has gone south. And what did they remind him will happen to the lakes during the winter? Right. They told him or reminded him that the lakes will freeze. So, does old Henry think he's going to make it through the winter? Think carefully. No, he doesn't think he's going to make it through the winter. So, scholars, this is now a good time to pause and read the story aloud to someone in your family, right? A sibling, a pet, a stuffed animal if you have one. I want you to read it to someone, but I want you to make sure you're reading it aloud so you're practicing hearing yourself and building that strong fluency. Good work. So pause for a moment to do that. All right, welcome back. I hope it went well. Did anyone read to a stuffed animal? Did anyone read to a pet? Did anyone read to a parent? I hope everyone remembered to read. So, scholars, you might want to keep your book handy for a moment, but we're going to now move to your packet. So, with each of our lessons, you can see here, right, we're going to read the first 12 stories in our blue reading mastery book. So, if you turn the page, you're going to see right on the back of that cover is our work for lesson 1. So, I'm going to kind of fold mine over so we can all see it. This is your assignment that you're going to complete and then take a picture of and submit for your homework. So I want to talk a little bit about these two questions since it's our very first lesson. And I want to talk to you about this table at the bottom. This is very important for each of our lessons. So lesson 1 says, in this lesson, old Henry doesn't fly south with the rest of his flock. Why doesn't he fly south with the rest of his flock? Now, you might be all set to just jot a couple quick words right there. But hold on. Let's look at this table at the bottom. This table is like a little rubric of how I'm going to grade your assignment. Right? Each homework assignment is going to be worth 5 points. So these are the 5 points that you're going to get. So let's look at that. What a good answer has. Part of the question in my answer so that it makes sense to readers. Right? So you could even look at it and think, yes or no, did I use part of the question? So, for example, back up here to our very first question, right? Why doesn't he fly south with the rest of his flock? If you were using words from the question, you could write, he doesn't fly south with the flock because Oh, scholars, you're going to learn very quickly. One of my favorite words is because. I love when people use because in their answers. And then the two reasons. Remember, there were two reasons we talked about. Back to the table. All parts of the question answered. So that means, did you answer this part and this part, and then this little part back here called, or where it says when, right? You want to always make sure you're answering each of the parts. And then one piece of textual evidence. So that's like your evidence or your proof. What did we read, right, for this answer? Right? So when you find those two reasons he didn't fly south, that's your evidence from the book. Right? If you said he didn't fly south with the rest of the flock because he wanted to stop at Caribou and get a coffee and got lost, right? That sounds like a fun answer, but nothing in the text, right? Nothing in the story supports that answer. So that would not be evidence. A thoughtful text to self or text to text connection. That's this second part, right? Have you ever felt this way and decided not to do something with your friends or family? Right? So you ever felt like old Henry felt? Right? Not that you've probably felt old, but based on what you wrote here, have you ever felt the same way as him and then not wanting to do something? When was that? Right? That's your thoughtful connection. You're connecting it to your life. The last way to get your points, capitalization and proper punctuation. So scholars, that's really always very important, but it's especially important right now while we're distance learning because we're not going to be able to do as much grammar work as we probably would be able to if we were in the building. So working your best on making sure you're using capital letters at the beginning of your sentences and that you're punctuating the ends of your sentences, those are very, very important. So you're going to work on writing a complete sentence to answer this question and a sentence or two to answer this question. And you want to make sure you have a capital letter at the beginning and a punctuation mark at the end. I know, scholars, that you all know those are the things that make a sentence complete. All right? Good luck. And remember, when you're finished with your assignment, be sure to submit a photo of it for me to check. Thanks for doing the first lesson with me, scholars.